Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary.
You are listening to
Kayak Adventure Series.
Kayak Adventure Series. This is where you choose your own adventure. You want to be offshore, you want to be shallow, you want to go up the
You
creek,
want to have a kayak that is sophisticated,
or a kayak that is simple.
you get to choose your own adventure.
Oh, looky there. That's a micro bag. I hope you brought the family. This is going to be wild. Hey, this adventure is going to be amazing. All right, guys, we're live. We took a week off, and it seems like when we took the week off, I don't know, you guys went and did something. Looks like you guys were busy, and you both had an amazing Bassmaster championship. Both of you did, and one of you, I don't know, apparently collecting those blue trophies. What's going
man.
on?
I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say, Billy. I mean, it was, I don't know. I literally just shrugged my shoulders. Like, I'm still a little bit speechless. I mean, obviously it's not true. I'll be talking a lot today, but at least explaining the event, I can speak a lot about that, but a little bit speechless on the fact that my plan and strategy from the moment they announced it worked out. But it was just a good time being at the house with Jake and the boys. Jake, you had a good event, man. Super proud of you. 164 of the best kayak anglers, and it's probably your best finish in the championship, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had an awesome day one, and I was like really in a good spot going into day two, but day twos are hard. I mean, honestly, like that's what makes these tournaments so tough to win, is putting together. It's not just 5 fish, it's 10 fish, and over the course of 2 days, and a lot can change in 24 hours. So
this is true, man. Billy, I mean, hey, I'm not going to forget about you, man. We're out there, but I see you catch this 18.5-inch, Fish Ohio smallie in the 30-degree water, whatever it was, 38. That's pretty impressive too, man. So you had looks like you had some good stuff happen too while we were gone.
Yeah, it was freezing. I went out with Tarek Walker. We had to drag the boats up the creek looking for some smallies. We had the Ohio Creek cold water running in our muck boots. We both had water. We had our dry suits on, so we were safe. But you guys, man, back to Jake, like, talking about having a good day one, 85 3/4 on day one.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, wow. Like, I mean, you were right there.
Right.
And from what I hear from not just you guys, but what I heard from others as well, it was kind of crowded. Like the lake wasn't the biggest lake, and it was crowded. Is that fair?
absolutely. Not for Drew. Not for Drew.
Yeah,
but,
not for me.
he never actually saw the lake. Fun fact. He he was off doing Drew things, but I mean the main lake, which probably plays really smartly into what Drew did, honestly. The main lake was just packed. I mean, it was like you found your spot, and then you just kind of had to hold it, because there wasn't really a lot of like wiggle room. Fortunately for us, there wasn't a lot of bass boats day 2, and that helped because on day 1 there was a lot of bass boats, but like kayaking space was at a premium. I mean, you basically had guys fishing 40 feet from each other. In some spots, typically every ramp I launched at from practice to through the tournament, so like 6 days of fishing, at least 20 people at them. So
yeah, it was nuts, man. It's such a fun event. I can't wait to get into it with you guys. Before we do, we might want to do just a few little news and notes here, I guess, right, about the KAS. I don't have a ton really, other than if I can share my screen, I will share the website so you guys can see something. Let's see here. Yeah. So a couple cool things on the website. We actually have a little timer countdown going now, which is pretty cool. You can see we're 36 days away from Shoalipalooza. So event number 1 there. So that's pretty crazy. And then I believe, if you go under 4 anglers, you can see now event payouts are up there. So there's our event payouts. You can click on it there and see exactly what it is. And like I said last time when we talked about it, if we have 200 people at the individual division, $150 an angler. We've got it structured where the winner is going to get $7,000. So it's still going to be quite the impressive payout. And I think we can hit 200. So I'm excited, guys. Actually, hold on. It didn't pop up for you guys, did it? So sorry.
Yeah,
it did? The payouts did?
Oh,
Oh,
no,
the payouts didn't. No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The payouts did not. For some reason, it went to a different screen. Hang on. It opened another tab. I'm going to get Eric to fix that for us, guys. It opened another tab, so I'll fix it. You can see what it looks like. Right here. There we go. I thought you guys were seeing this the whole time. I don't know if you guys can see that there, but that's the event payouts. You can see $7,000, and even 150 people still $6,000. So it's not nothing, that's for sure. And you'll notice, guys, we've talked about it before. We pay out the top 15%. So look at those. You can go on the website and check this out. Go to 4 Anglers event payouts. We're paying out down to 15% because that feels more in the spirit of Kayak Adventure Series, right? To pay out further down. Excuse me. And if we actually, you'll notice a lot of the last 5% that pretty much just get your money back. But you get your money back. You get to walk across the stage. You get, your award. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. And I think Jake, tell me if you agree on this. I mean, a lot of folks, especially at this Bassmaster event, or any event really, you just want to be on the stage. You just want to be acknowledged on the stage. It doesn't matter if you're 10th or 1st. You really don't care. That's your goal. Let's cash a check. Let's just get on the stage. So being able to give that opportunity for anglers down, another 5% down to the top 15%, even though it's not a ton of money, it just kind of recovers your entry fee, some of your gas money, whatever. Get you on the stage where you're going to get a nice, awesome photo on that stage. We might walk across, let you say one sentence or something, one word. Everyone gets one word, maybe the next person has to say it all makes a sentence or something. I don't know. But you get on stage, you get your award, and you get your moment up there, which, again, for you guys who are trying to, develop this and get, sponsors and stuff, that might, of course, help having a little bit of coverage up there on stage, a little media coverage. So we thought that was kind of cool. So, let's see. Man, these comments are coming in.
There's so many comments.
Merlin, I see Merlin's comment. It's true. We're going to get into this. We'll have to bring his comment up for sure. But other thing I wanted to mention is, okay, everyone, please be on the lookout for this. Okay, we are going to have signups individually from the ACA instructors, the American Canoe Association instructors, who will be holding classes at all the Kayak Adventure Series events. But it's very important you sign up for the Shoaly Palooza's instructionals on Sunday, the ones that are after the event by Jeff Little. I think Russ Snyder's is one to do one, hold a class for you guys. Jeff Little, Dustin Hoy. Dustin's in the comments right now because he made that comment earlier. So I think he's wanting to do it. And so basically, guys, it's a 5-to-1 teacher ratio. 5-to-1 is all that's allowed. Because again, this is all set by the American Canoe Association. They don't mess around. They understand teaching and how students absorb information, get information, and they've limited it to 5-to-1. But we have a place with a private lake that's stocked and has big bass in it. So you're going to get to learn your kayak and paddling safety and paddling skills and all that great stuff.
And catch bigs.
Yeah, and safety and catch bigs, and learn some fishing stuff as well from these guys that really know how to catch them. So, I mean,
I might end up doing that, honestly, because I know I've talked to Drew about this. I think a lot of people get into kayak fishing and they don't really think about the safety aspect. And it's something that was really fresh on my mind from this last tournament because practice was brutal on the lake. And I'm just thinking, what if I flip? What do I do? It's it was really windy, and that safety aspect is, I think it's often gets overlooked by anglers because they're in these really stable kayaks, but anybody can flip.
Someone flipped a blue sky.
I saw it. It did a 180. He fell out. It came back over on the next wave, and then he got back in. So, I mean,
it seems impossible that just happened, but it happened.
I was shocked. He didn't even react. He was just I'm good. I'm good. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. So, and what's crazy, guys, we've talked about that. It's not just even the safety. I don't win this tournament if I don't understand
exactly
the way current works in water and rivers, and understand how to be a better, and I've always learned how to be a better paddler, because the fish utilize the same currents and current seams and current breaks that we need when we're going upstream or ferrying across. So learning that stuff, and we'll get into how it helped me later when we really, dive into it. But the ACA classes, so if you three teach one, I'm not sure I'm going to teach one. I might. I'm not sure yet because this is the first event. I've got a lot on my plate. I'm going to be super stressed and anxious about the whole thing. And what we might have Steve Owens on next week to talk about the Bassmaster Kayak Series and how it is running such an event on the scale that he did with Bassmaster on that giant stage there in Tulsa. We'll get his insight on that a little bit, but that's how I'm going to feel a little bit. Yeah, he did an incredible job. I mean, Steve just knocked it out of the park. So did Bassmaster. Very impressed. And it was cool because we got a little bit of a feel for the KAS a little bit because I was able to share my big fish, the big bass of the event clip, like a little edit I did, a little minute edit, and they put it on the big screen behind me. I wasn't sure they were going to do it, and I was busy just filibustering, talking, so I didn't even notice it was behind me.
I'll tell you what, people in the stands, when that clip played, well, I won't spoil it, but when a certain part of that clip happens, there was like an audible, like, oh, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, I don't want to spoil it. But.
No, and it's cool that happened. We got to see a little bit about what the KAS is going to be all about in those theaters. And because can you imagine if we had the whole top 10 up there had one clip of their biggest fish catch or their coolest fish catch, and when they're on stage, and it's going to lighten the mood for a lot of you guys that are on stage. I know some people haven't been on a stage like that. There's a lot of lights in your face. It's not easy to talk in front of a lot of people.
You only have a limited amount of time.
Very short amount of time.
Yeah.
So the clips being behind you is going to ease that and keep it very light because we're going to be able to watch and laugh and talk to you about it, super natural. Like, oh, what happened? What did you do here, Jake? Like, what did you do to get that fish over those cables? What were you thinking? It just kind of lightens it up. So that's the whole premise of this Kayak Adventure Series presented by GoPros. Just get those videos up, and I'm excited to see it, man. I don't know. But anyway, as far as KAS news and notes, that's
a real example that you gave, Drew. So if you guys don't follow Jake on any of the social media, go check it out because he posted the video. He really did catch a fish and then have to net the fish. The line was over a cable.
We're gonna show it.
Yeah, I'll
show it. We're gonna show it.
I've got two clips, and they're both equally as like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
But I mean, you got to do what you got to do, man.
This is going to be a very video-filled and photo-filled podcast here for sure. I'm still working, by the way. I appreciate everyone, all the congrats and the thanks and the support, the prayers, all that stuff, man. Thank you, Tyler. It means a lot to me. It's a lot. It's overwhelming. Riz, what's up? Nick Rizzo there. Thank you so much, man. It's overwhelming, guys, to have all this happen. I'm still getting back to texts and messages, and it's hard in our society. I've got, you got all these social media things. I was complaining to the guys about what I don't understand. Instagram, there's a request, there's a general, there's a primary. I have to there's a Facebook page. You have to do now athlete page. There's people message there. Then there's my personal Facebook. There's text. It's like there's comments. I can't keep up with it all. But
Drew
I want to say thanks.
overwhelmed on the way back from the thing. He's like, "Can you help me get through some of these messages?" I was like, "All right, I'll read them to you."
Yeah, that was really cool. Thanks for doing that. And it's a good problem to have. I am not complaining at all. But I'm also being honest about anxiety and things that are real in life that it did cause from all just how overwhelming it was. So, but I want to say now that I'm live on this and every podcast, thank you guys. I'm sure I've missed some people or something out there, but I want to say definitely, Billy, while you're on, before I forget, thank you to you and to Ryan Parker, who helped me, loaned me a battery. So I did use a lot of Torqeedo batteries and wanted to make sure I had enough because this has been my plan for a long time. So Dustin Hoy let me borrow one. Jonathan over at Eco Fishing Shop. I mean, I just wanted to make sure I had plenty because, again, they're only like 29.
He was like Thanos collecting the Infinity Stones with those things. He had one from Missouri, one from Ohio, one from Indiana.
I still got to get it back. Zach Van Landingham here in Northeast Ohio. Shout out to the Canio guys, and he let me borrow one, and he let me borrow the Torqeedo motor that I sold him just like a month ago because I thought our Team Torqeedo, we were getting the new motor sooner in time for this event. We weren't, and I wanted to have a backup because Jeff Little always stressed it's important to have your backup because if things happen, which it did in the tournament, and I had to use that motor. There's a lot of things, but we'll stop there and then we'll just get started from a chronological order whenever unless you guys think of any other KAS updates, other than just to say, guys, join the Discord group. Someone put the link. Someone go find the link to Discord and put it in these comments.
I got you.
That's going to be a way to communicate. If you need lodging at these events, you need someone to stay with you. You have questions about things, campgrounds. You've got questions about the water, the river. Like they all have. The Discord channel has, a separate channel for each event. Shoalipalooza, Ozarkana, Wild Whitehall, whatever. They all have their own thing. And it's a great community. It's a great way to get, information and help each other out on that Discord. And it's much better and easier to use than Facebook groups just for organizing, right? So there it is right there. Thank you guys. Join that. It's going to be a lot of fun. The guys at Dark Horse Tackles are awesome. Josh and Zach's been helping with that a little bit. And we're just going to get talking in there. Once you start talking and it starts growing, it'll become second nature and that thing will blow up and we won't need to worry about these Facebook groups that, as the world has evolved and not everyone uses Facebook anymore, it's just like
it's a great place to meet people too, especially like if you're going to the event, you don't know anyone going, like you can meet other people that are going to be there, collaborate with content, all sorts of things you can do. Discord is the future. I think we'll see a lot more of these trails moving towards that.
Oh, you will. And you don't understand how it's better until you actually get in there and start using it. You just don't really understand and get it. There's a voice channel in there. People can go and talk about stuff. In certain nights we could make a night where people just get on and talk. But we'll grow it. Discord's something definitely to follow up on. And also, again, ACA. When we post about it, how to sign up right away so we can submit your names to the ACA and actually get insurance and everything because they cover the insurance for those classes. But it's important you guys sign up early, but it's going to be limited to 15 people, it sounds like, unless I do one at the very last minute. But that's hard to do. So, I think that's about it. That's about it, guys, for now. We'll have a lot more. So, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event.
GoPro highlight. All right, so the main event is going to be before you guys get into everything you're going to get into, have you been on any other podcast, Drew, or talked about this?
I was on Sirius Angler last night and talked about it. And then I have done other interviews and stuff. Like Bassmaster's got some great coverage if you go to their website too. But I've done some other interviews that aren't in podcasts. Eco Fishing Shop's Hooked podcast I was on. I don't know when that goes out publicly. Maybe today.
They told me tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on.
But Kayak Adventure Series is definitely one of the first. So, I'm sure your phone is probably blowing up with requests to interview everywhere.
I've got a lot today. There's no doubt. Today is a very busy one. So I'll be on Kayak Fishing Weekly. Justin and I will knock that out. I'll be on with Armando and maybe Daniel Perry if he joins on that one. I'm not sure if he'll be on there with Armando. I'm going to be on, I'm sure, one of the Paddle and Fins or I want to name them all, but I can't remember them all, guys. So sorry, but
Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to kind of fade it. I'm going to fade into the background here. I'm going to let you guys tell your stories. I can't wait. Honored to be on here. I'm so excited to hear all the details and then see some videos. So take it away. Who wants to go first?
I feel like Drew should go first, right?
You think? Mine's going to be lengthy. So, I can go first if you want. I mean, we'll chime in with your stuff and, whenever you want to.
What's interesting is like we fish polar opposites. Like I would much rather have been doing what Drew did. It's just like the reality is like you can't have 15 people doing that, right? Yeah. So like I fished the main lake, Drew fished, up north and in the river, and it was just a much different experience. I think like we were doing much different things. Just the way we approached it was just like a 180 from each other, and I think that's interesting. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen, Billy, like you're saying. I'll let you, and that way you guys have a lot of visuals to go along with. A lot of these pictures and videos haven't been seen yet, so let me just share the entire screen. I'll close out of some tabs and stuff. You don't need to see my student loan debts and all that stuff that I got open on these other tabs here. But I'll share the entire screen so you guys can see. Here we go. Share it. It's gonna be like Inception for a minute here, but I'll pull up the pre-fishing pictures here first. How about that? And we'll walk through. So basically my strategy, guys, was
Oh man.
You guys can see this? Okay. Sounds like you can see it. So I can't see you
I mean,
guys.
I'm just looking at her belly, and I'm like, man, look at that belly on the thing.
Yeah. So this is pre-fishing, and my strategy from the very beginning was going up that river, and that's all I had because that lake is there's not like you can hide in a bunch of cypress trees like the swamp on Santee Cooper or Caddo or anywhere like that on the lake. You can't get up any other. There's no other rivers and creeks you can get up that have enough water to hold fish. You can't do anything other than like to get away other than this river.
Well, you can hide behind the docks, as we'll see later.
You can't hide behind the docks like you did. That's right. So my strategy was to go up the river, and I did that on Saturday, the first day of practice for me. And then I can't remember what was the first official day we could be on the water. It was probably like
Friday,
Friday,
I believe. I
so
think.
yeah,
so,
I finally got there on. I got there. Whatever was it? I don't know. This is
we got there Saturday.
With Saturday,
we left
okay.
at like around 7, I think. So you probably got there like late morning.
That's right. Yeah. So I got in the water and I caught some nice fish in the river. As you can see, this is about a 20.5-inch largemouth. I was just slinging a spinnerbait around. The weather was really warm and nice. You can see I'm in a short sleeve shirt. The water temperature had gotten up to like almost 60, around 60. So I catch a 20.5. This is a night. This is practice also a 19. And I believe that was a 19.5 I said on my video. But what's crazy is on the tournament day, I catch a fish at the exact same spot. I threw a jig to be different instead of the spinnerbait because the water temperature definitely cooled down. But it was 19 3/4 in the tournament, and I bet you that could have been the same fish because on my video I did say this might be the same fish. Is what I said to myself. But I
those
pinched
water
the tail.
temps definitely did drop for sure, like 5 degrees. It was crazy.
And some of these aren't edited. I thought I had these edited better, but where I brighten them up. But you guys get the idea. I may have opened the wrong folder, but there's some nice, nice fish here. All caught pre-fishing. I like this is the little pile. This beaver little pile here was a real good spot. That's a slough back up in the river there. So that's that same fish. But anyway, there we go. There's some pre-fishing pictures. And I will stop sharing the screen so I can just talk again. And I can see you guys. But so pre-fishing, that was first day I went and found those fish up the river, and I went up the river about 2.5 miles. I wanted to get further up than I think most people were going to fish pre-fishing. I figured those fish were going to get all beat up, from 2 miles from the ramp, 2.5. So I just went further before I really started dissecting and really fishing hard. Because even the fish down below, I figured it just wouldn't matter. So I will share with you a video file. So what I did, once I caught those fish in practice, I went to the lake and I dialed in my Torpedo setup to go faster because I realized, see, there I am now dialing in my setup on the lake.
Rare footage of Drew on the lake, by the way.
Yes. So I'm leaning forward and I'm hitting 6.7 miles an hour with that. So I was able to get to go faster, and that was critical because, like I talked about on the stage, I was very much like a NASCAR, pit crew, whatever, just getting it trimmed properly and it's like a jack plate on a boat. I wanted to get it trimmed up where it could chew the full amount of water, not cavitate, but still run as shallow as possible because that river has a lot of steep gradients. They're real steep. They're not like rapids with big boulders. They're just these tight, narrow areas. And
they're like choke points.
Choke point, and they'll also get real shallow. Yep. And the water levels kept falling all event, which was freaking me out that I wasn't going to be able to get up there per the rules, And so you got to stay floating. So fortunately, it held out just enough. But I can't imagine what that place looks like in the summer when it gets low.
I can tell you, it gets really low in the summer.
Mm-hmm. It was well below the median. So, for that time of the year too. So basically, I needed to put that Torpedo in full speed at the proper settings with the proper setup. I had that Innovative Sportsman rock guard. If I don't have that, I don't win. If I don't, their steering triangle from Innovative Sportsman, the grass cutting blade, which didn't really, come into play for this fishery. There was no grass, but full speed going up some of those currents. And sometimes you're barely moving, like 0.5 mile an hour or less, getting up and paddling at the same time as hard as you can along with the full speed motor. And if I don't understand currents, I don't understand whitewater paddling and just reading currents on where to ferry and when to cut across, or where the slower water is on the surface that I can get up. I don't get up that stuff. I mean, I just don't. I mean, it's very critical. So it all came into play. It's really cool that you can kind of credit paddling and whitewater kayaking skills and a motor and your fishing, skills all into one, event. So, but from the very beginning, for sure, that was my strategy to just go up that river and getting it from 6.2, which is what I used to get on the Shoaly, 6.2. But now that I've got it trimmed and adjusted, which I'll do a walkthrough of the kayak and teach some folks what I did to get it to get draft a little shallower and for very shallow. Basically, I can go in full speed in about, I'd say, like 7 inches of water. I could go full speed, which is hard to do unless you have it adjusted properly. And again, big shout out to Jeff Little. You can go watch all his stuff on the Little Stuff channel. He teaches a lot about that stuff. But anyway, it was just a cool strategy and event, and it worked. And it was just my strategy from the very beginning. So once they announced 10 killer, because I've known about that lake and river, because they put the Tennessee River strain smallmouth in there when there was a fish kill, I don't know, back in the 80s or 90s. They also dumped in, I believe, Florida strain largemouth, which that's one thing that surprised me, is how big the largemouth were up that river too, not just smallmouth, largemouth. So
and the spots,
big.
I caught an 18-inch spot, which is like crazy. I mean, it's a Kentucky, and
there were some big spots for sure. I saw some in the water that were 18, 19 inches. They didn't catch any that big.
That's huge for Kentucky. Like that's a big.
It's a big spot.
Kentucky,
big spot.
Yeah.
And actually on the first day of the event, when I got to as far as I went up that river, I was sight fishing 3 spots. One of them was like 14 inches. The other 2 were like 17, 18. And of course I'm sitting there shaking that like TRD crawl down there. I'm like, come on. And the stupid 14-incher grabs it and I don't set the hook. I'm like, let it go. And eventually, it was a gobius. I was using the gobius, and he just swallowed it. I sat there forever with my finger trying to get him out. There's no way that fish made it. I felt horrible, but I was like, spit it out. Let the other ones get it. Dang it. So he spooked those other fish, but I could have upgraded a little bit more. But so it's funny. The interesting part is, and it's just crazy, man, when it all comes together like this. I knew I was doing that. I knew about that river. It's been on a bucket list of mine to fish it for a long time, because I knew it had really, really good fishing in that lake and river, all of it. And so I just had planned on going up the river. And then the funny part is, and a big shout out to Josh Strinko, who's an amazing smallmouth angler with a Shigan, who's helping us with shirts for the Kayak Adventure series. So look out for some of their collaborative shirts and Smalley Talk podcast, because when he won Susquehanna, we were staying at the Airbnb together. I was so happy for him, because, he deserved it and he crushed it. But at the back of my mind, I was still thinking about 10 killer already. Like, dang it, dude, he's going to find and figure out when he does research what's in that river. And he did. He already knew. I think he had some friends that have fished and floated that river. He's very entrenched in the smallmouth river fishing circles. Okay. The guys over there are going to know. And, didn't really talk. We talked one time about it, and he knew there was big ones up there and stuff. And I said, yeah. So I knew I was going to probably have to face him as a competition, but he chose not to come to the tournament. He said it was a lot of expense, and, he didn't have the setup I had. He just won that in I-11. Is that what it is? The inflatable. And
he was in an iTrack.
iTrack. Yeah. No motor.
Pedal drive.
So, I mean, he probably, couldn't, he definitely couldn't have gotten up where I got, unless he would have got a motor set up and all that. But I was calculating in my head all the great river anglers and people like you, Jake, you love the river, and John Dalton, who stayed with us, and Matt Ball and Jody Queen and Russ Snyder's, everyone I knew was going to hit that river. Christine.
I already knew what Drew was doing. Like, he didn't tell me. Like, he was very coy about it, but I knew what he was doing, because he's like, oh, I didn't pre-fish. I was like, it's like, there's no way. I know where he's been going. I could see the mud on the kayak. I was like, I know what he's doing. And I had fished the river. Yeah.
On the Tacoma.
I had fished the river and done pretty well, but the issue I had, and this will go back to what Drew was saying, nobody worked harder to get to his fish in the tournament than Drew. I did what he's talking about, like trying to attain and going up the river. I got maybe 2.5, 3 miles up there before I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's just too taxing with this battery or with this motor. And it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to spend, an hour just trying to go a quarter of a mile with my setup. So I ultimately decided not to fish the river, even though I had caught some pretty good fish in there. if I would have known that the lower half was, just nobody was going to fish it, because we can talk about that later. But our buddy John went in there and just fished right there by the ramp and absolutely crushed it day 2.
He did.
I might have
yeah.
actually fished around there.
That's a funny part of the story. It really is.
Yeah,
actually.
I had the river on my radar. I knew what that river had in there. I was telling people, like, yeah, there's giant largemouth in there. Like, I already knew that. It's just, it was you had to work hard for that. You had to want it to go up that river. Like, I'd say like 99.8% of people aren't doing that. It's just, you're just not doing it. So
yeah, no, you're right. Most people just weren't, but they also, I think a few things worked in my favor. And one, it's on a strategy. I went to that access area and I went a half mile through the dirt roads and the mud pits and stuff, up a half mile, launch from the gravel, the gravel kind of bank from that public access area, and pre-fishing on the first day, caught those fish, got out of there and never was seen there again. And it sounds silly, but you got to think about it. I mean, no elite angler wants to be seen on their juice and practice to the other anglers. You know what I mean? It's like, it may not have mattered one bit. You know what I mean? People probably knew I was going up the river, I think, already. That's everyone had to guess, if they didn't see me, of course, they probably were guessing that's what I was going to do. So I don't know how much it mattered, but I didn't want to be seen there. I left. And then from that point forward, because I went up probably like 3.5 miles that first day. And then I ended up the next days went and launched further up the river, places that weren't obviously our designated launch for the event, just to float down to where I'd gotten up 3.5 miles, to that point where I can meet up and then turn around and go up and make sure I can make it up further, So I kept going. I went as far as I think 13 or 14 miles up from our designated launch just to see how far I can get. Not thinking I was going to actually go that far, and I didn't obviously need to go that far in the tournament, but just to see how far I could get and see where I could find fish, knowing that I probably had a setup that other people, with that crescent kayak shoaly. That's the thing. If you don't have a crescent kayak shoaly or a boat that's similar that can draft that shallow, and with that Torqeedo, it doesn't, and be able to work in the current the way that boat does, you just don't make it. So I knew that not many people had that, especially given the technology and live scope and the style of boats that a lot of other anglers are fishing with. But what's cool, guys, dude, the bass lives deep, shallow, lives everywhere. So it's cool that we all have our own personalities and style, and I can take mine and do what I want to do to catch bass, and you can take your personality and what you love to do and catch bass. And obviously, the lake showed out. I mean, they caught them. I didn't blow this thing out of the water. It's just a couple inches, and it was a tie for second. So one more fish by any of those guys, and I'm not sitting here.
And it was a log jam from
it was lake fish
15th down to like where I was. Like literally, I catch one more fish, and it's like, oh, suddenly you're on the stage. Like it's like it's crazy. Like it was a competitive tournament, and the lake was packed.
It really was, man. But I did go that far up just so I could see where I could get, and then had to manage the Torqeedo battery, with the throttle, because if you go full speed, then it's going to use more juice, and I only had so many, I could bring, and had to weight them in the front, put as much as you can on the front. I had 3 up front, in the hat, 2 in the hatch, and 1 in the little cubby. So just so you know, guys, on the Crescent Shoaly, and I'll admit this wasn't like the design. The lower hatch portion, the deeper one, was made for sure to fit a Torqeedo battery. We're making sure it was big enough for that. It fits lots of batteries, but you can put your X2 batteries in there, put your Torqeedo, whatever you want. They fit in there. But the next cubby above that upper section, you have to kind of squeeze it in there and shove it a little bit. The plastic flexes a teeny bit, but you can get another Torqeedo battery up there on the upper level, and the lid, the hatch lid will close securely without being like popped up high. And actually 2 of them will fit in there. And then another cool thing is that the Torqeedo battery fits in that cubby. You do it upside down, and it fits in that front cubby for the Shoaly as well. So that's 3 right there I was able to have. Again, they're only 29 amp or whatever it is, 30 amp. So you got to bring several, because it's not like you can just throw a couple. It's a proprietary battery. You can't just throw a couple. Like on your Newport, I know you can use whatever. You could have just carried 200 amp hours and probably had the same amount of power I had.
Well, I run a 50, and that's probably good enough to go all day, even in that scenario. So because it's 24 volt. So
right. So I got all the way up there, and part of why I was up there is I wanted to obviously complete and see how far I could get and stay legal. And I was able to get all the way 13 miles. So I knew that was never going to be an issue, assuming the water didn't fall too much faster. And then the other cool thing from a strategy perspective was I wanted to fish way up there so I wasn't beating up any of my fish and just learn how to catch fish in that river. So I'm out of bounds, and I've talked about this in other podcasts from a strategy perspective. And yeah, you got to have a lot of experience and a lot of balls, for lack of a better word, to try to go catch fish that are not even in your reach, right? They're out of bounds, but it helped me learn how to catch them and figure it out, for tournament day. So,
well, that's important on a river because when you're river fishing, like patterns typically go all the way up the river. And I'm not saying that you won't catch a smallmouth off a sandbar, but like if you're catching smallmouth on wood, 15 miles upstream, there's a good chance that smallmouth at your spot are going to be on wood or largemouth or whatever. So
that's true. They changed for sure, and it was. I mean, this tournament was wild, man. They changed on me, and I just was fortunate to get them. But I'll show some other videos here. So day one. So here we go. Day one. I will find. Oh, those are my pictures. All right, here's my video. So day one, I went up and caught. Let's see what I want to show you guys first here. This is the smallmouth I caught at the end of the day. I started with a 19 in a half inch or whatever in that slough. Actually, I'll show.
Is it the first slough there?
I'll show big bass. I'll just show the big bass. The reason I'm showing this one, let me pause it. I'll set up the scene here. The river's to my right, the water's coming in, but this is a slough going back straight ahead of me. And that slough's got beavers in it that kind of murk it up. So halfway back, or just even a quarter way back into it gets very muddy. So I had setups for your Oklahoma spinnerbaits with painted blades, double skirts. I put 2 skirts on it so there's more of a water displacement around the bait so they can feel a little bit better. And I put that Z-Man minnows trailer on there. This is a chartreuse and white spinnerbait. So I got like a pearl chartreuse tail on the spinnerbait, and I fished it in the muddy water. And then in the water that's from me to where you can see right here, it's like 2 foot of visibility. And then to my right where the water's coming in, it's like 10 foot of visibility. So you can see you got to be prepared for multiple water clarity situations. So, and this is on day 2. It's the first fish of day 2, but I want to show it because it shows the slough here. And this is the big bass of the event right here on day 2. But see the slough, how it goes back there?
Oh my God.
And the beavers keep it muddy back there because they move around a lot. It's the only fish I caught on a chatterbait.
No net needed.
Yes!
There's a lamprey that fell off it.
Oh, my old faithful Project Z chatterbait. Look at the size of this thing, dude. Oh, that is a gift from God.
You can see about a 6.5 pounder. I would say.
That's a great way to start tournament. Morning on final day. Bassmaster Kayak Series.
It's a $500 fish.
Yeah, it turned out to be a $500 fish.
Absolutely ready to spawn.
So you can see that's the river air to the right coming in, cut through a cut, the main river. So, but backing up, that was so just so you guys can get a visual of that slough. Oh, I would start there, and I caught 5 fish on day 1 in that slough. They were all 16 inches and up, 19 3/4, 17 3/4. I'm gonna go back and look and see if that fish during practice was the same fish, because in practice it was 19.5, and I bet you I didn't really try to see.
Well, that one had a scar on its left gill plate, so that might be a good way to compare.
Yeah, it's true. I can go back.
Unless it's from you the first time.
Yeah, it could have been. But then I went so I left that slough with 5 fish for mid 80s or high 80s or whatever it was, and went upstream, and that's when it gets tough because you got the Clearwater smallmouth. And so here is where I caught a upstream. I went way upstream. Now, before I get up this far, guys, later in the day, it's blue. This is, day 1 was bluebird skies, clear, difficult. Before I get way up here, I just want to say my Torpedo gave me an error code in the middle of the day, and it wouldn't work for about 20, 30 minutes. I was just stuck. But I already had, the mid 80s or high 80s, whatever. I had a pretty decent, bag, but still obviously wanted to catch more fish and get further up to where I found these fish here in practice on this bank that was, holding a lot of good smallmouth. So, and then somehow, man, I just was praying and, saying prayers, and magically, I'm telling you, it's God for sure. It started working and it never stopped working again the rest of the day out of the blue. So, and I had to stop and, readjust that rock guard, tighten it, because it shakes loose a lot during the day. You just got to keep checking your equipment. You got to know how to do that, and keep your tools. You know, Jeff Little always preaches, keep those tools, everything that you need for the torpedo. Keep an extra, keep all of it on your kayak. And I'm fortunate I did all that. So this was on the bank. You can see where there's not actually a lot of calm holes like this when the water gets up. And in the winter, they want to be in these kind of calmer pools like this. The water temperature was real cold, by the way, on Sunday and Monday. We had cold nights. It was post-front conditions. And that's when most people fished the river, which was hard for me because our Airbnb was 5 minutes from the launch on the river. And having to watch all the people pass our house fishing that river, all the good anglers, man, it was tough.
I was one of them. I went up the river on Monday.
Yeah, you guys hammered it. It was tough up there those days. And I think that's why people, even Russ was like, man, that's probably what it was. It was just like the weather made me think that they weren't in there the way they were. And I think it was because I fished further upstream on those days on the river, and it was a very tough bite. So you guys happen to be hitting it. The rest of the field hit it on a day, I think the days that were just the toughest to catch them. And that's what kind of turned people off, because it was just Steve Baker and myself on day one at the upmost ramp. And Steve was he's got an awesome setup too, the Torpedo, and learned a lot. And he was able to get up. He was with me for a lot of the day. He's up about 6-7 miles or whatever. He went up alongside me. He just didn't have enough battery power to keep going any further. But this one critical fish here. So think about it. When I leave that slough, there's not a lot of fishing happening. I'm working my way up, getting to this spot. I mean, it's a lot of just, I cast a little bit while moving, but they just weren't on moving baits and stuff. Bluebird skies, post-front conditions. But I knew I'd found these fish here, and they were down deeper, just kind of sitting there. And it was clear. So I thought, well, I need to pick up that Z-Man Gobius and a spinning rod, which I do not like, as you guys know, fishing with spinning rods unless I have to. I'm more of a power fisherman, like single hook, swim bait, buzz bait, chatterbait, spinner bait kind of guy, jig. Anything I can boat flip them and use 30 pounds straight braid, that's me. But so I will say that before I show you guys this video, every Elite Series angler, any pro angler, you'll look back sometimes and you're like, oh God, that was like so bad, that fish landing or my form or whatever. I want to teach you guys what not to do here, because I fought the fish fine. It's like a big open pool, and there's plenty of depth, and there's no logs and trees. But eventually the fish moves me down towards a log, and I do keep my hand kind of right on my spool, and I loosen up the drag a lot. They can just run. It can just run on that light wire, hook and stuff, 8-pound straight braid. And so I always will, like, if it's starting to run somewhere I don't want to go, I just put my hand over the spool and then pull back so it can't, it can't go any further. But at one point it got close to this log, and I pull it and I just get it close, and then you're supposed to bring the rod behind you, and I always preach, like, don't ever grab the line. Don't ever grab the line. And I just freaked out and panicked when it got close to this big underwater log it was pulling towards. And I started just grabbing the line, and I belly her in. Again, I don't use nets, and I should have used the net especially on my spinning rod fish. I should have.
And he's got one right there.
I've got one behind me. I should have just grabbed it. I belly it in, and just watch. The Gobius from Z-Man falls out of its mouth when I finally just belly it right in the boat. So very, very fortunate this fish got in the boat here. And I'm going to fast forward to the fight. See, there's the hookup. And I look back, I'm like, oh, am I recording with my GoPro? Yeah, I was like, okay, cool, it's recording. So I start loosening the drag right away, because I do not want this thing to pull.
Stop.
Break line or pull that light wire hook.
Stop.
So I will spare you guys
Where's that paddle going?
That paddle stayed in, fortunately, this time.
I see where you're going. Come on.
All right, I'm getting close to the point where, and I've got the front angle you can see, but you'll notice the Gobius pop out of its mouth. See that to the right there, that little, where that little point comes out, that little small point, you'll see there's a log underneath the water. It's going to come into the picture here in a second. It's one giant log under the water right there underneath my kayak right now. I'm just trying to see, I barely got it up over it, and then just start grabbing the line, freaking out.
Did you sit in the floor of your kayak?
Yeah, I'm in the floor, down the floor of the kayak. I always do that when I belly them.
Oh my God, the Gobius.
There goes the Gobius. Yeah,
Yeah.
you see it pop
Yeah, it
out.
just
Right
fell out.
Thank you,
Yeah,
God.
you can see it again here. Watch the Gobius just pop right out.
Oh my God, the Gobius just fell out. Oh my God. Thank you, God.
So I was pretty excited about that. Went
I
over
probably
here to
would
the
have
bank.
dropped that fish.
score.
10.5 on the Gobius. Let's go, BS. That's this kind of stupid dad joke.
So that was a dumb dad joke. Let's go. You guys get the audio, right?
Yep.
Okay, everyone gets it. So then I just let the fish go, and yep, and she goes.
Let her go.
So, see you, girl. And that was cool, man. It was a cool fight. I'll never forget that. The let me remove that video, and I'll show another one here. The front angles kind of.
I see where you're going. No.
I just
No.
I don't like catching on spinning rods. You can't tell. Yeah, down on the floor. I'm like, oh no.
Got you! Oh my god, the cobias just fell out. Oh my god. Thank you, God. No freaking way.
That
That's
one
why I
was
said on-
21, right?
Oh!
What's that?
That's a
I
21,
can't believe
right?
No,
that
this
just
is the-
happened,
this is the
dude.
19 and a half.
cobias
This is
just
day
fell out. I
one.
thought it was a net.
Oh,
Still
day
day
one.
one.
Gotcha.
So
I'm
this
old
fish
school.
called me up from like a
Don't like
16 and
nets.
got me like 3.5 inches.
And I just freaking
So it took me a
landed
long
this
time to get up where it was, but
Z-Man Gobius, baby.
it ended up being a huge part of the event. So again, the fish I catch at the beginning actually aren't that far upstream. You know, really, people could have got to those.
Well, I know exactly that bank, so that's why I was like, huh, you're not as far up as I thought you were.
Well, right there, that's far up on that video, but the first slough was not.
Oh, it wasn't those first. I got you.
No, that was way up there. I mean, way. It took me all day to go on to get there, basically, without hardly even fishing much. But I knew that there was some good smallmouth up there, and I had a good bag already. So, anyway, then I go to then it was day 2. I catch that at 90 inches sitting in 4th place. Guillermo obviously was in the lead. He crushed it on day 1 with like 92 3/4. And then I go on day 2, I catch that big largemouth right to start the day. And then I catch this giant smallie, which is the other video I'll show here. Well, here it is. Let's bring it up.
If you ask me, I think this fish deserved to be big bass.
Yeah, I know, right? It should have. I'll set the stage just so you know. Like this, I fished the slough again the next day. I started with the largemouth slough, hoping to finish there with a limit so I can ease my, calm myself down a little bit. I catch the 22, which certainly helped me calm down. It was a giant, it took big bass, and I knew that was putting me in good position for a good limit. But then I catch another 16, great, However, I missed 3. I lost 3 fish on the spinnerbait. One of them just missed it, rolled and missed it. It was right near the boat in that muddy water. The next one I had on went under a log, and it just somehow pulled off and just hung on the log. And I'm like, dang it. And then I missed another one. So 3 of them, and nothing I caught in that slough was ever under 16 inches. Nothing. Pre-fishing and tournament. So I know those fish are good fish, right? And that's making me very nervous because now I'm about to go out in that clear water and have long runs to any of the other fish. But I did see some big fish in some pools that I learned a little bit more about on day 1. So I had that confidence that I know they're up there, but I'm very nervous because it's hard to catch them in the clear water. I stopped in at Jimmy Houston's Outdoors the day before, picked up this swim bait. It's the only fish I didn't catch on a Z-Man bait. It's the Zow Dangerous swim bait, fast sinking, because we were watching Tyler Berger's Bass Fishing HQ video where he tested all the swim baits together.
Video,
and that
by the way.
was a cool video. So shout out to him. And it starts working at like 1 mile an hour and it blows out at 3. I was like, wow, that's a nice range. So I was like, I want that one. And Russ has always talked about that bait and done really good on it. So I was like, all right, let me grab that. And I got a fast sinking. The only one they had at that store that was fast sinking was the trout pattern. And I was like, I don't care. And there's no trout in here, but I don't care. They'll eat it. You know what I mean? Like I always say this, like we all know what happens if you throw a goldfish in this river. You know what I mean? It's not going to sit there and not get eaten. It's going to get eaten. So trout pattern, who cares?
These fish see this. They're like, dude, we've been eating burgers all week. Give me a pizza. It's like,
give me some sushi. Yeah. So
give me that clam chowder.
Yeah. So I did, the clam chowder. That's right. That's what I chug Campbell's all day. Just chug it while I'm moving. But so then I caught 2 14.5-inch spotted bass on my way up to this point. So now I've got 4 fish, but they're 2 small spots to go along with that 22 and the 16, right? But I was fishing some wood on the right side. I was getting the bites of the spotted bass. I said, maybe I should slow down a little bit more and keep doing this with the spinnerbait, throwing that sling blades from Z-Man. And then I threw it and hooked a 19.5-inch smallie. And it's fighting me for like 30 seconds. It jumps 3 times. On the third jump way out of the water, it throws the spinnerbait. And I miss it. And I'm just heartbroken because I know how hard bites are going to be to come by because I'm not fishing as much because I'm running a lot and working. Also, that would have been the classic stage. I know for a fact I'm on the stage if I catch that fish, right? Because that's a 19 and a half, and I had the 22 already, and 16. I had a decent. So I'm heartbroken, but at least I was taking the positive from it and saying, like, you know what? God let that happen. He showed me that they're on wood. They were not on that stuff in practice and pre-fish. They totally changed between the first day of the tournament and even the second
I
day.
think that cold front pushed them in to stick to the cover because that water temper really dropped.
Yep, I think so. And as it got lower, they were the amount of current that was on this, especially from the first day of practice, the amount of current that you see on this wood right here to the right, there was a lot more, and they didn't want to be in that swift water because the temperature got down into the low 50s at one point. So they kind of went back to their deeper holes, kind of like your wintering holes at those times. But then as it warmed up, you know, the last day of practice, first day of the tournament were in the 70s. First day of the tournament was really warm. And then this day was 72 the second day, but it was cloudy. Supposed to be, doesn't look that cloudy there, but it was cloudy and drizzly a little bit. And I saw that, and I said to myself, I need to either pick a huge bait, go get a huge bait from that store, or I need to finesse them with that Gobius again. And so with the cloud and wind, I was going to try to get him to bite that big bait. So once I lost that fish on the spinnerbait, at least I learned something from it. I took the positive. Wasn't happy I lost it, but it caused me to slow down and fish this wood that I would not have fished. 100% would not have fished this wood. I would have just blown past it because I never caught him on that in practice. And I saw how many were in the deep, some big pools further up that I was trying to get to around all the rock and sitting deeper. If I don't lose that fish, I don't catch this fish. So it actually won me the tournament. So just stay positive, guys, and just keep true to your faith and trust that God's got a plan for your event. And that just happened to be mine. But I catch this fish and I hit the GoPro right here as fast as I could once I hook it on the back because it wasn't running. And I wanted to make sure I capture everything. So
Oh my God.
it's huge. 21 and a quarter small, pushing 6. This jump right here is the one that I'll never forget. This next jump, you're about to see it. When it comes out of the water and you see the size of this, I do lose my paddle here, by the way. There it goes. So I didn't even care. I wasn't even paying attention.
Come on, girl.
Watch this
Hey,
jump.
bending branches float. It's the best part of it.
So you can see, yeah, they do float. How big that fish was. I mean, you got to see this jump again. When it just breaches, I'm like, oh my goodness. This is a freak of nature. And it's on that big single hook. See, this is more my style. Just give me a big single hook, which is hooked good. I know I hit her really hard when she hit it. So it's the hook is penetrated in.
Get in the boat, yes. Oh my God. What?
So, oops. I'll present the front camera now, and you guys can see that, and then that'll be all the videos I'll probably show. But this is what it looked like from the other side. But yeah, that was a fish that obviously, like you said, Jake, I mean, that almost deserved to be a big bass, given it was almost a 6 pounds, probably close to 6.
Not jump. No.
I mean, it was 21 and a quarter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's wow. It doesn't get much better than that, you know, when it comes to big rivers.
Oh God.
Freaked me out with that bait going up the line. You know, this
I mean, look at his mouth.
God. What just happened?
That's a smallmouth, and he had that whole thing in there.
Happened.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So anyway, that was obviously. Let me re-add this page. You can see I did a cool. You can see how big it is on the. Oh, okay. I thought I had the release there. I don't have the release part, but I might can find it. Sorry, I'm trying to remove that from the stage here. But I will just show you the some of the pictures, I guess. I mean, I don't know what the comments are. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying this. I'm just kind of like.
Oh yeah, everyone's into this, man.
Okay,
I'm loving it.
Cool. These are my already edited versions. So this is so this will give you some. Here we go. We'll grab all these. That's the big one that started the day, the 22. That's me measuring the 21 and a quarter smallie. That's in the middle of the fight when it's starting to breach by the boat. You can see a screenshot from that. And that's kind of when I was just, after I scored her, you know, on the kayak there, hopped out to get a little deeper water and let her go. So It's a beautiful shot. There's the mouth. You can see how just big the bones are on the fish's mouth. That's when you know they're just freaks. When the smallmouth looks like that. I mean, looks like a carp.
Smallmouth have really bony mouths because they're more compact. So a lot of people, that's why they're such good escape artists. Like they'll just throw the hook. Like you got to get a good hook set on them.
Yep. And so the fish came from that log. I paralleled the log. I threw it right at the root ball at the base of that log. And I was, just paralleled it. And on the about third crank, it just hammered it. I mean, came out and third cast with that bait too. So that's the big largemouth at the beginning. Again, they're kind of out of order here. Oh, that's it. Those are all those. But that was. I'll never forget that one. I will show you the pictures, just a few from the day one here. That you didn't see a video for that. That's that 19. That's the one I think could have been the same one I caught on practice in that same spot right there behind me. 19 3/4. So kind of long and skinnier, and that's that big smallie, the 19 1/2. And that it might have been that same 19 3/4. So day one was a little bit more of the consistency kind of bag, everything over 16 1/2 or whatever it was. Day two, I left, unfortunately, did leave that. I'll stop sharing the screen here. I did leave that a 14 1/2 spot still on the stringer, but obviously it didn't matter. I had 90 1/2. And I was, lamenting losing those. I also had another big bite on that Zow Dangerous swim bait at a big pool further up, kind of like where I caught that 19 1/2 incher. That's what I was trying to get to, where I caught that 19 1/2 on the Gobius on day one, thinking now that it's cloudy and windy, they're going to hammer this big swim bait, kind of like that one just did. So once I had caught that one, I thought I was going to go upstream and catch another 20 and just start pushing, mid 90s or upper 90 inches. But I got hammered one time on it. There was another guy fishing. The locals were hammering this river every day. They're up there smallmouth fishing, not just catfishing. They know.
A lot of those guys too were pounding the white bass because the white bass are running. Sorry, sand bass.
Sand bass, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it all went down. I just couldn't get rid of that small one, but it was just enough. And I was nervous sleeping on that because I wasn't sure if Guillermo had upgraded. It sounded like he didn't, kind of the dock talk, but it doesn't mean somebody else didn't, upgrade or even didn't submit any fish until after lines out. But I knew I had a whatever it was, 3 1/2 inch lead when the board went off, and I just was praying that it would hold out, and fortunately it did. But it was a lot of fun with the guys, giving me a hard time behind the stage. I was so nervous, kind of asking everybody like, so how was the bite in the afternoon for you, man? Like, how's it going? And they were so messing with me, especially the guys from California. They were having a good time. And they were like, oh, it was on fire. The afternoon bite was on fire, dude. I'm like, oh, stop. And they were just kind of, it may have been on fire, but they knew they didn't have enough. But it was a cool experience. Trying to think who else. Definitely do want to shout out to Guillermo. Man, what a classy guy. I said on my Instagram, if there's no one I'd rather lose to or beat, because if you beat him, that means you've really done something. He's such a good angler. And we lose to him.
He's a pure kayak angler. Like, if you watch Guillermo fish, he is just, I'm not saying there's a right and wrong way, but Guillermo fishes like old school kayak angler. Like, he's standing, he's moving, he's doing things. Like, if you look at his kayak, he's got rods everywhere. And that's usually a sign of like, and Drew and I talked about this, that controlled chaos. That's like part of kayak angling. If you're not like, scooping your smallie into the boat and the thing falling out, are you really kayak angling? But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm still just overwhelmed by everything, but I just want to make sure I thank everybody. So I'm trying to think. Oh, well, one thing I wanted to say, it's on the list here. When you fish shallow, skinny water, up backwaters, rivers, and creeks, one thing it's very critical, obviously we're headline sponsored by GoPro with the Kayak Adventure Series, is to record everything. That way you have receipts, man. You got proof about everything. I've got all my attainments up the river on video. I've got every fish catch on video. So it, obviously helped me in the past too, when there was a protest, to be able to say, no, here's how I did it. Let me show you guys. So I feel like we have an extra little bit of level of responsibility on us. Like even that previous tournament that was protested that I went on Pickwick, I told the tournament director where I was fishing before the event, pointed on the map. I shared my location with them from my iPhone, so they knew. This tournament, Steve Owens, like we've talked about, did such an amazing job. He asked me at the check-in, he said, "So, man, what do you think, man? How's your pre-fishing? Good? Bad?" Like, I said, "Yeah, I think this." And I told him, I said, I'm going, way up the river. Just, I'm going way up the river. I'm all in. Like, all my chips are in. And, he was like, "Good luck." So I feel like it's just a little bit more just level of responsibility on us to film yourself, cover your butt for sure with having all that stuff, learn all the laws, everything like that about the waterway you're fishing and what you can and cannot do and stuff like that. I mean, I talked to everybody. I talked to game wardens there. I talked to everyone, just making sure you just got to be double sure that everything you're doing is on the up and up. And obviously, of course, follow all the Bassmaster rules as well. So I did that, and then but filming it will help you. And then another little quick note, and this is definitely critical and good for you guys fishing the KAS, is some of the USGS gauges will give you the CFS, the gauge height, and other parameters like water temps. And I found one way upstream, many gauges up from where I was fishing, and the had a water temp gauge. So before the tournament, I'm able to already start learning what my water temp is and start planning my lures and my baits and the style, how I'm going to catch them, how aggressive they're going to be. So that's another tip. And then, this is a cool thing I just want to say. I think it's pretty cool. Guys, we are not winning $300,000. This isn't the Bassmaster Classic, but kayak fishing is getting there. And, KBF has given away $100,000 in the past, and, huge event, 600-700 people, and 50 and 75. And the TOC from Hobie I don't know if it was 30 or 40. I mean, this one was 25,500, I guess, for the big bass. But I just wanted to say this is pretty cool, that for a $400 entry fee and for all the entry fees, whatever I paid to qualify for that, but $400 for this event entry fee, if you take all of the anglers at the Bassmaster Classic, bass boat anglers, kayak anglers, everybody, guess where I stand on the money list for who walked away, from that weekend? You guys know? Probably not.
No.
So I was fifth out of all the anglers at the Classic and kayak. So I was just a little bit more than Lee Livesey, who got fifth place and won $25,000. So I would have been fifth place out of everybody there, boaters and kayak anglers. That's pretty cool that the winner of this event ends up being way up there. And of course, Bassmaster does a good job of covering it. The media, everyone, there's a lot more value than just that 25,000. We can go.
I think they did a fantastic job covering it this go around.
They really did.
And people cared. I mean, look at all the photos that Drew took with the pros, and just you saw it a little bit with Russ too when he won. It's like the pros understand that it's not easy to beat 200 other people to win this. So
yeah, it's true, man. The pros are starting to, and what's cool is, if someone Christine's won big tournaments, Guillermo, Russ, a lot of the, Matt Balls, Jody Queens, you could just keep going on and on. So, and I hate doing that because then I'm just forgetting something, but either way, forgetting someone, but basically I feel like it's cool because we can use our platform and that a little bit of extra responsibility, use our platform to push further into, push a little bit with our whatever little bit of influence this gives us. It's not a lot, trust me. It's like elite anglers always saying, hey, you get on the elites, you think it's just going to come. It doesn't. It's hard. You got to work hard and fight for it. But what's cool is whatever we work hard and fight for, and then basically that opens doors for future winners. Future people and more for the bigger bass world that doesn't follow us quite as much as we feel they should, or yet we start kind of getting their attention a little bit more. And so I feel like it's cool because it's like that first player that gets drafted in the NFL draft. Okay, all the rest of the players start signing their contracts after that top guy because they want to be able to come in right below him, so you could that person sets the bar. So hopefully I can do whatever I can, with this and start pushing the envelope for all of us in the kayak fishing space, that these elite level trails like your KBFs and Hobies and Bassmasters, and then this intermediate fun stuff here that we're kind of doing, and with the Kayak Adventure Series, hopefully it just kind of pushes the envelope for all of us and gets more non-endemics paying attention to us and the endemics as well that still don't really pay, quite as much attention. So hopefully I can do a lot of good with that title and try to repeat next year. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
It's in Texas next year, right?
Yep. It's in Texas. I think that's about the main stuff I had so Jake, That's what I was saying. I almost should have gone first just to. So, you had a great event.
It was all right. I mean,
26
yeah,
164.
I had a really good day one, obviously. Almost 86 inches, but that lake was just, it kind of folded to what I would consider the pressure. And like, I think really what happened is like on day one, these fish were set up, in those little spawning pockets before they pushed back. And then on day two, a lot of those fish were either caught or they moved back. So it was a challenging practice. Like, I don't know if people aren't familiar with 10 killer outside the river, the water is super clear. There are some sections that do mud up a little bit, but for the most part down, like, I would say like 2/3 of the lake down, it's super clear and it makes it a tough fishery. And I had an awful practice. Like, I was catching small limits at best. Some days we were only catching one in different spots. And I just really couldn't figure it out. And then on the last day of practice, I was able to find like a little cove where I'm like, okay, there's enough docks here. There's enough A, B, and C spots that you could go in there and you could probably get a pretty good limit, because I had caught some good fish in these coves. Doing something that Drew and I actually kind of did on Possum Kingdom. And I felt like this lake really set up similar to Possum Kingdom. And what I mean by that is just, it's one of those big, like, kind of deserty lakes. There's a lot of rock. It's clear.
Yeah. Not like flooded bushes or anything, or standing timber.
Right.
Or
and
grass.
Like, there's a lot of residential areas on the lake, because there's like pleasure boaters and just people that fish it. And I mean, it was getting pounded with boats all weekend, because the weather was super nice. So like all weekend was bass boats, and I wanted to find somewhere in my mind that was going to be different, because everybody was going to be beating the banks or sitting offshore on drop-offs and stuff like that. So I caught some fish in practice behind docks with a jerkbait, and in my mind, I was like, okay, I can do this for 8 hours and get a limit. And I'll show a clip of kind of what I was doing here. Let me see if I can present it. But it was not as easy as a lot of people would think, because you had to lay your rods flat. Now I've got my rods up high here, but on a lot of these clips, like, I've got my rods just laying in front of me and I'm like going under the cable. So this is early on in day one. You can see like I'm just fishing this area, and this spot right here was killer. There was so many big fish in there. And I'm throwing a really tiny Okashira screw head, it's called. It's got a little propeller on the front with a 3-inch spark shad swim bait. And the reason why I'm doing finesse and why I'm so far back is, like I said, the water's super clear, but the bait in the main lake was tiny. I'm talking like, that's the size they were eating, and there were just thousands of them everywhere, millions even. And so I downsized after not really getting a lot of bites on the jerkbait, and you can see like I'm just fishing over these cables. So you've got to have good line, because those cables are like saw blades, and I couldn't get him over. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna net him under it, pull him up, unhook it, and then pull my bait back over, because I thought I was going to lose that. Now, this is a bad angle, but this fish was 18 inches, so it was actually one of the better fish I caught this day, as I lube up my reel there with some lake lube. But this was really the nut in a nutshell. What I was doing all day on day one is just going behind these docks, picking off fish that in my mind no one else was targeting. Like, I fished this cove for 16 hours, and I was the only one behind these docks. Now, this bite died off a lot on day two. Obviously, I already kind of alluded to that. But, like, it's just like these tournaments, you got to kind of come up with something that nobody else is doing, because it's just when there's designated launches and there's 20 people at the boat ramp, you've got to, and you can see I'm using my net as a paddle to get closer. Because one change you guys might notice is I'm running an XI3 for spot lock, and that's a new addition to the arsenal on the Shoaly. Because I picked this up because I had a feeling that you see I'm pulling myself closer.
Yeah.
I had a feeling it was going to be windy, and I was right. And it kind of helped me keep myself in position a little better on these docks, because I would just post up alongside and pop it on spot lock and just fish behind these docks. But
nice.
Yeah, I mean, that was my strategy in a nutshell, is just go where no one else was. I couldn't really get like right up against these because, like I said, the water was so clear that if you pushed in too far, you could
Yeah.
see the fish spook. Like if you stood
would
up
spook,
and looked
yeah.
down, they would see you and they would move. So I was having to make really long casts behind these docks, cranking it super slow in big column, just super slow, and they would just pound it. I think the biggest fish I caught this day was like almost 19. Let's see. I think I have a clip of one that's. It just gives you an idea of what these fish were doing.
It's cool to see the lake, man. Never seen it.
I mean, look at that. That
Yeah.
fish is only 17 and a half, and it's just stuffed full of bait. Like it's just feasting on the bait. It was crazy, and like it kind of pains me that this strategy didn't like stay efficient on day 2, but
Mhm.
I learned some pretty important lessons as an angler, is that you're not only fishing against the fish, you're fishing against the boats, the weather, the other kayakers, and I think that cove just kind of like, it just got pounded too hard. I mean, there was like at least 10 people in my cove on day 2. When I got to my spot on day 2, there was the kayaker who had seen me catch fish there just waiting, and I was like, oh well, guess that's not my spot anymore. But you know, it really pays to have like backup plans, to have like the A, B, C, D spot, especially on a lake like this, because it was packed. Like I mean, I know I've said that like a million times, but space was at a premium. Like pretty much
Yeah.
every drop off had a kayaker sitting on it. So
And that's a good like segue to what's cool about the Kayak Adventure series really is the fact that we can utilize all, people could have been put in further up at the bridge upstream on the river, and then the next bridge up from that, and the next bridge up from that. It really utilized the entire resource. And then what's crazy is you wouldn't have as many people on the lake when that is in place. See what I'm saying? It actually would alleviate the pressure to let the lake anglers not chop up all their fish quite so much, and it kind of spreads it all out a little bit. So it'll be cool to see, how that works out at a lot of these events, people getting out and exploring some wild stuff, but how much it opens up the lakes. I'm telling you right now, the lakes are going to be big time in play at these events. I know a lot of people are excited to fish a lot of rivers and creeks at the Kayak Adventure series because it's, definitely a rule set and a format that lets you do that kind of stuff a little easier, but the lakes are just going to be wide open and live scope.
I mean,
and
if
all
you're
that.
good with electronics, you'll
Yeah.
do good and you do well in these, because you'll have a chance to
Shout out Hellabass.
do what you're strong at. Like I think that's the beauty behind it. Because I do want to say one thing though. Like I was fishing next to Lance, who is on the eco team with me. We both launched there, and Lance was not using live scope. He does not have it on his kayak. He's got just normal electronics, and he was fishing in an area that he definitely would have benefited from live scope. But what I'm really getting at is like, you can do well without electronics. Like I think that is a hot button issue right now, and obviously live scope's an advantage, but I think there's always room. If you just buckle down and just fish what you're strong at, you can do well. Like,
Yeah.
and this was definitely a live scope lake, don't get me wrong. Like I had mine running, it didn't really play a huge role in it. A little bit on day 2 when I had to like really start to grind a little bit, but
Yeah.
I'll show you what live scope did. Actually, look at this. This is
Now,
the
would it
number one
really
thing I
be
caught on
a
live scope.
jig fishing trip?
Yeah, there you go.
Catch a Mondo
Look at that.
black crappie.
Freaking monster black crappies that
Very
look
end.
like bass on the live scope.
Thought it was a good.
Yeah, it
bass,
takes
but
it
nope,
does take
crappie.
some time
And there's
to
my
learn
bait
that
there.
technique.
You
Yeah,
can
it
see
takes
it's
time.
just like a little swim bait with, and I was using 12-pound line. I normally wouldn't, because like those things are really hard to cast on heavier line, but I was very leery of those dot cables, so I went super long fluorocarbon 12-pound leader on my spinning rod. And the reason, and this is a tip for you guys, if you're ever fishing like that kind of stuff around docks, you want a long leader because you do not want that braid to touch those docks. It will break. It'll saw it right off. Whereas the fluorocarbon, you get a little bit more leeway. It won't break as easy. So
yeah,
that was the logic behind that. And this was like in 30 feet of water. And what's funny is like day 2, I caught a lot of smallmouth. I probably caught 30 smallmouth in like 30 feet of water. And I was just like wearing myself out. The problem was I couldn't find that fish over 15 inches. It was just a school of like dinks basically. And in my mind, I was like, okay, there's got to be a big one in here somewhere. But alas, there was not. There was those crappie. They were hanging out.
No, you got a good event, man. You know, can't complain. Just a bite away, like you said, from being on the classic stage. That's pretty cool. Last thing I can think of, and if we want to answer some questions, we can, to mention is just the fact that, man, it sounds, when you recap this and you show these pictures and videos, it looks easy, sounds easy. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm misreading the room here, but I think some people think, oh, you just get up to where the unpressured fish are and magically, but it's how Keith Poche fishes. Basically, he doesn't always, smash them just because you get up to where some other fish are. But the thing is, the other there was a lot of pressure on that river from locals, jet boats and drift boats, and it just because you can get to those fish doesn't really mean, magically they're going to bite. I mean, they get pressure up there too. It wasn't like, oh, well, you just get up there. It was hard. And proof of that, I mean, I'm not, singling Steve Baker out. He was on the right pattern. He had the right thing. He had the right setup, exactly like I did. He got up as far as I could, just ran out of battery power. And he unfortunately was behind me. And I tend to be a little bit of a vacuum cleaner when I'm fishing some areas, and especially those sloughs and places. So he had a challenging time fishing behind me. But he got up there. Unfortunately, didn't catch him too well. All the people pre-fishing, they all fished that river. We saw so many people, Jake, drive down and fish that river. They didn't
20,
catch him, didn't figure out, and they were in. And just so you know, they were in the section that, on day number 1, John Dalton, Creek Fishing Adventures, who stayed with us, was sleeping on the couch, and it was 5:58, and I was heading out the door to go. I had a 5-minute drive down to our ramp. And I woke John up and I said, hey, man, he was snoring still. I said, hey, might want to get up. And he was like, oh, no, I got my alarm set for 6 o'clock. Okay, cool. So I woke him up. It cost him 2 minutes of sleep. I felt bad. And he didn't care. But anyway, the next day he's snoring there on the couch again. He had like 50-something inches, I think, on day 1. I don't know if he got a limit or what. Or isn't that right? He had like 50 or 60. I don't know. But he wasn't like
in the fish on day 1.
He wasn't in the hunt, right? So day
Correct.
2, he's just snoring there. And I said, you know what? He's got his alarm set. I'm not going to bug him. He had it set like he did, I'm sure, like yesterday. And then he sleeps in till about 7:30, I think. He finally got on the water. He just drove right down to the ramp where I put in the most northernmost launch behind me. And I'd put in there whatever it was, an hour or so before, and went way up. And he fished right there and still within sight of Horseshoe Bend public access area. So like a half mile up from the ramp, but within sight of that public access area. That dirt trail that I drove my Tacoma down to launch on pre-fishing. He was within sight of that and caught 93 3/4 inches, second biggest bag of the entire tournament. Only 95 inches.
Like right in that first slough, right where the muddy water first starts to start from the launch. It's
and on the main
crazy.
river. He had stuff on the main river too, some big ones
Right.
that the water temperature had warmed. Like I said, pre-fishing, it was cold there. It was post-run. It was tough. And the guys who fished it in those days kind of, I think, got a bad read of what that river could hold. And I mean, it kind of worked out, obviously, in my favor. Not that it would have changed a whole lot for me because I was going up above all that pressure stuff anyway. But they were there. Even in that section right there, they were there. You could have caught them and potentially won the tournament. And I think Steve got a little unlucky with his day 1, but he was on the right pattern along with me. And he found him in pre-fishing. And that's just how fishing goes. So just because people are like, oh, Drew just gets every once in a while just finds a little place that somebody else can't get to or whatever, and which obviously anybody else could have got there and could have set up and could have done everything I did, but it still is not easy. It is hard to do, guys, and I just want to make sure that's clear too. It was just literally those couple big bites that I got further upstream is all I got. I didn't get a ton of fish. That 21 1/4 made a huge difference. That 19 1/2 on day 1 on that Gobius, it definitely was the difference, but I didn't like smash numbers of fish up that river. That's for sure. So,
and they were definitely in there on the river on day, like during practice. Cause like I went in there and I caught, the 18-inch spot I caught, and it was right there by Horseshoe Bend, like right there at the launch. And I caught like, a couple decent largemouth. And that was like, I was fishing by myself and I was like, okay, I could put this pattern together. But what scared me away from the river wasn't really like Drew, and I knew Steve was going to go up there because he told me, because like we had talked about it. And what scared me off the river was I was more worried about other people coming in there and there being like 15 kayaks, because in my mind, if I approached the river, I was going to have to fish a lot lower because I can't go up as far.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people think you're just gonna, you like what Drew said, you just go in there and you just find the fish and you catch them. But I didn't tell a lot of people how many I caught on the river. You know, I just was like, yeah, you know, it's whatever. But everyone I talked to was like, oh, I didn't catch any. And I'm like, well, they're definitely in there if you fish it right. Like, it's all about angles and that stuff. Like, it's all about like understanding how they're going to be facing the current. You know, there's some logic on whether or not it's better to fish upstream versus downstream. I prefer to fish upstream personally. That's my preference. Obviously, if you're doing a float, you can't do that. But like, you know, there's a lot of like factors that go into it and experience. You can't just go in there. I mean, like Steve's a great example. Steve's a great river fisherman, and it's just, you know, he just got kind of unlucky. So
yeah, he did. He really is, man. He's going to win one of these things soon. Maybe Shirley Palooza. We'll see. I know he's jonesing for that one next. But Trey did say, said, yeah, I got way past the Bear in Fort Creek. Like I said earlier, I got as far as, I mean, not in a tournament day, but I went as far as 13 miles up to check it. And I knew I could get up that far if I needed to. It didn't have to go that far. But I'm sorry. Whoever put up that comment.
I just put up, he asked about the anchor, but
he said he's caught a 22 1/4, 6.8 pound smallmouth in there. So, they're obviously there. What was the other comment?
Someone asked if you use an anchor on the river.
22 1/4, that's unreal. Anchor? What was the question?
I don't personally, but I don't think Drew does either.
Not when I'm moving upstream with the Torpedo. Not when I'm fishing that way. I do not. But I use a drag chain on floats downstream for sure. Brian Slayton, you know, the creek crawler. Awesome dude. Stay with us. You guys should go follow his channel on YouTube. Go subscribe. Yeah, he caught his PB smallmouth. Him and John Dalton, I kind of sent them to some of the good areas on the day after the tournament to see if they could get into some nice ones, and he caught a 20 3/4. So you can go check out that fish catch on his channel.
Dude, he caught it on a big swim bait too, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's right. He was throwing that swim bait. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was. John Creek Fishing Adventures caught a nice like 19 something as well up there. So they got it all on video on their channels. I'm not sure if they're edited yet, but look for them soon. Follow along. You'll see those guys at Kayak Adventure Series events too if you want to see them in person, if you're fans of what they do. But anyway, I don't know if there's any other main questions to cover.
So someone asked about like positioning current, and I'm sure Drew has his own thoughts on this, but I personally, like if I'm trying to stay in current, I can usually put my Newport on like, I don't know, 10%, depending on what how swift the current is, and you can kind of just stay in position. Especially if you're trying to pick apart an area. Now, obviously, that only works if you're facing the current. But
yeah, that's what you do. You just kind of use your feet, put it at the right speed,
exactly.
And you can hold right there.
And you can do that on lakes too. Especially if there's like some wind. If you face the wind and put it on like 7%, you can usually stay in position pretty well.
So Merlin was right, man. You guys. Oh, sorry, we're putting comment after. Hang on. Sorry. Just Merlin. Sorry, real quick. I want to say. You know, him and his friends joked that Drew was going to go up to the last launch up the river and win it before it started, and bam, that's what happened. And it doesn't always work out like that, you know, when you have a plan or a vision as soon as they announce the lake, but it certainly did this time, and that's fishing. I mean, I lose one of those big fish, and then I'm barely on the stage or whatever. So a good spot will always, the winning spot, you know what a winning spot really is? It's when you can survive some of those punches, those blows where you lose a few big fish and you can still win. You know, you just takes a 1/4 inch to win, or even a tie. You can still win by tiebreaker, even less than that. So that's all you need, a winning spot. You can survive blows. That's what a winning spot really is, because it's hard to fish completely clean. You know what I mean? For 2 days.
I mean, I lost like a 20-inch smallmouth on day one, which would have pushed me up into like close to 90, because it would have been like a 4.5-inch upgrade. So I mean, if you can't just say, oh, that's fishing, then
Yep. The other comments you guys are putting up there, sorry I took them down right when y'all put them up.
Someone had asked about your spinning, your rod that you use on your spinning rod, like the action, power action, something like that.
I still throw like a medium heavy on the spinning rods. You know, that Gobius was a 1/2 ounce, so I wanted something a little bit with some strength, and it's not like it's a super, super light wire. You know what I mean? It's medium. Yeah. So you don't need you don't have to use like a medium action rod or something light, super light, but I wanted to get a good hook set in them, and then just kind of play them, loosen up the drag, and just let them just run in the open water. And then whenever, like I said, I put my hand on that reel and stop them and pull, lift up and pull them out of whatever I don't want them to go in, and wind, instead of just cranking it back down when they're about to go in that log and then loosen it back up and then cranking it back down. That's why I hold my hand on the reel and just let it not give. So might look a little funny, but. And then was there another
those
one?
gobias too, they're kind of just like a tube. It's like a tube hook, basically.
He's asking what cameras I use. There's one question. I mean, I guess you're talking about the GoPro. I'm using the GoPro Hero 11, about to get some 12s. Thank you, GoPro, for sponsoring the Kayak Adventure Series. And you guys are going to win some GoPros, hopefully, many of you at some of the events. So,
And I use the same thing, obviously. Drew and
Yeah.
I have like the same cameras, so.
yeah. Well, the KAS come to Ontario. I mean, I would love to go to Canada at some point. You got to keep in mind, we're only going to pretty much do like 6 events a year. Maybe one more, but it's just never getting bigger than that. When you put on events that you want to be these big giant festivals, if you have a ton of events, then everyone's like, I'll get the next one. There's another one just down the road, But when you have less, I think it's a lot of work. It's the same amount of work to put on all these events. So, the more you do, it's just more work for us, and it's like splits up, So I just want them to be the biggest parties. Plus, I don't want it to detract too much from the local trails and other national stuff. We want to just keep it small and tight. That way people can fish 1 or 2 of these or 3, whatever they want to do. But it's a low number for the AOI, just fishing 2 of the 5 regular season events, and then the finale at the broodstock. So yeah, definitely want to come to somewhere in like Canada. That'd be really cool at some point, because the fishing is unreal up there. I mean, it really is. It's a perfect Kayak Adventure Series location. So we'll have to see if we could do something like that. Even if we started one year, I don't know, where maybe it's not the full on, somebody there, like maybe River Smalley's there could be the guy that hosts it or something, and just see if we can't do like a test run and see if enough people show up. But definitely epic fishing up there. And yeah. Let's see. Any other questions? That's probably about it. I mean,
Yeah, I don't see any that we missed.
well, there's the designated launches question. I mean, Steve Owens will be on our show next week if you want to ask him that question. But designated launches, I guess, I've never heard of anyone in the kayak fishing world that ever launched somewhere that was not public access, but I'm sure someone did. I don't know if they did it intentionally or unintentionally by accident, but at least that helps see which ones are the official launches to go to. I mean, no one's checking you in, you know what I mean? So who's to know if people aren't launching who knows where? But that's why we have polygraphs and all that stuff afterwards that we, potentially would have to pass. And that's why obviously there's GPS coordinates for the Tourney X, we see where the fish are caught at least. But, it's a good question to ask.
I personally don't have a huge problem with them. But the problem is that I wish there were more.
Yeah.
Because there was a few launches. There was like some, and this is no fault of anyone at Bass, but the ramp I launched at actually had a north and south ramp at the same campground. However, only the south one was pinned. So I was very nervous about launching at the other one because, it just wasn't the one they pinned, even though it theoretically was the same ramp. It's just like that one was a lot more friendly towards kayaks. I'm like, well, I don't, there's some gray area here. I'll just launch the other one and go all the way around, which was like 15 minutes of doing stuff. But so.
Well, they do. Yeah. I mean, they do a good job, and, they're growing the sport like crazy. I'm excited to see where it gets. And in my career, this tournament stuff's all, long gone, and we're going to be rolling over one day, I'm sure, in our graves when people are winning $300,000 at kayak fishing tournaments. Oh man, it'll happen one day for sure. But thanks for all the support, everybody. Thanks for all the comments. You guys have been great, and I'll be on more podcasts to come. So we'll hash out some more, and eventually I'll get some sleep.
All right, we'll wrap this up. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing that story. I have a feeling this episode recorded and posted online is going to get a lot of views. people are going to go back and want to watch this one. So, and thanks for sharing all the video and
Sign up for
everything, too.
Shoalipalooza. Go sign up. Sign up.
Go
Sign up.
Coming 26 days, something like that.
Yeah, 30.
All right. See you guys.
See you guys.